Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, IUS-TV Sports honors Black History Month.
And the men's basketball team returns to the court this week, coming off their second away win of the season. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Kevin Vera.
And I'm Ethan Maisel. So Kevin, how's the Chiefs game this week?
You do know I'm an emotional person, right?
Better luck next season.
After 3 straight wins, games being postponed due to COVID-19 health and safety protocols, the women's basketball team returned to action against the Michigan Wolverines on Monday. Indiana got off to a slow start as Michigan scored the first 9 points of the game, but the Hoosiers were able to gain some momentum through Nicole Cardano-Hillary's 16 points and 8 steals. However, it would not be enough for Indiana as Michigan's Naz Hillman was unstoppable in the paint, scoring 21 points, grabbing 5 rebounds for the Wolverines. Michigan was able to pull away in the second half and earn the victory 65-50. Indiana's next game will be Thursday against Minnesota in Assembly Hall. Follow beat reporters Brett Smith and Audrey Hausberger for more coverage.
With the Indiana men's basketball team getting a much-needed off week, our own Jevin McCoskey joins us in studio to break down the season so far. Jevin, over to you.
Over the past weekend, Indiana traveled down to College Park to face off against the Maryland Terrapins, where the Hoosiers picked up their most dominant road win of the season, winning 68-55. It was a homecoming for one particular Hoosier as Xavier Johnson got to travel back close to home and play in front of family and friends as he continued his hot stretch of play. Johnson finished with 8 points and a team-high 9 assists while only turning the ball over twice. Trace Jackson-Davis scored 17 points and grabbed 9 rebounds, but it was his front court counterpart, Race Thompson, who had the biggest impact. Thompson scored 18 points while grabbing 12 rebounds, giving him his 4th double-double of the season. So, what does this win against Maryland do for IU in the Big Ten standings? Well, as of February 2nd, Indiana sits in 6th place in conference play with a record of 16-5 overall and a 7-4 record in Big Ten play. Every team ahead of the Cream and Crimson in the standings is nationally ranked, and as if the gauntlet of the Big Ten was not challenging enough, IU plays 4 of those 5 ranked opponents over their next 5 games. The first of those opponents comes to Bloomington on February 5th as the Hoosiers host the top-ranked team in the Big Ten, the number 18 ranked Fighting Illini. Be sure to follow along with myself and Evan Kimiko on Twitter for updates throughout the game and the rest of the season. Ethan, back to you.
Thanks, Jevin. The Indiana swim and dive teams wrapped up their successful regular season run on Sunday, defeating the Evansville Aces. The Hoosiers won all but 3 events, which lifted them to their 2 large victories over the Aces. Freshmen stepped up in big ways as Rafael Miroslav took the men's 200 individual medley and Kat Minich touched first for the women's 200 individual medley. The women's team continued from their momentum from their bounce-back win against Purdue and finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the 100 butterfly. The men's team finishes off the season yet to be defeated, going into the Big Ten championships, and the women's team caps off their season 7-2, only losing to Ohio State and Louisville. The women's Big Ten championship meet takes place in Madison, Wisconsin on February 16th through the 19th. On the men's side, their Big Ten championship will be in West Lafayette from February 23rd to the 26th.
Each week this month, we will be honoring a different historical IU athlete in a special spotlight segment. Joining us now for our highlight, our first historical Hoosier, is IUS-TV reporter Noah Harrison. Noah?
Thanks, Kevin. This week we highlight George Talifaro. The Gates, Tennessee native is noted for being the first African-American drafted to the NFL. But before that, he was a Hoosier, just like all of us. Talifaro came to IU in 1945 and instantly showed his star quality. He led the team in rushing yards his freshman year. That season is still IU football's only undefeated season and one of their 2 championship seasons. Despite his stardom, the racial divide on campus was prevalent. Talifaro was not allowed to eat in the campus-designated dining halls or live in the residence halls. However, during his time at IU, he started to bridge the gap between himself and other white students. In 1949, he was drafted to the Chicago Bears, but he had already committed to the AAFC's Los Angeles Dons. He wouldn't start his NFL career until 1950 with the New York Yanks. The football star would play 7 seasons for the league before switching career paths. Post-football, Talifaro dedicated his life to education. He earned a master's degree from Howard University and later served in a number of high-ranking positions, such as chancellor and dean of students at multiple universities. George Talifaro passed away in October of 2018, but his legacy is ever present in sports all across the nation. In 2019, IU revealed a bronze statue of Talifaro that sits outside of Memorial Stadium. That's all for this week's Black History Month's Historic Hoosiers. Kevin, back to you.
Thanks, Noah. The Indiana wrestling team took on in-state rival Purdue last Saturday in Bloomington. Our wrestling beat reporter Riley Woodall has a recap on the nail-biting matchup between the Hoosiers and the Boilermakers.
In an instant classic rivalry matchup, the Indiana wrestling team lost to Purdue in a highly contested dual meet.
I'm proud of our guys. We really went out there and we battled. We try to preach improvement, right? Progress. And when I look at the progress from last year, we only won 1 match against Purdue. They beat us like 36-3. So that turnaround to, only lose by a point, I mean, it's still a loss, but still, we gained ground.
Both the Hoosiers and the Boilermakers were trading blows with the score going back and forth between matches.
We just keep getting better and better every week. This is still January, the end of January. Still got the whole month of February and then March. So I'm excited to see where these guys go, where my guys can get to.
With 4 matches to go in the meet, Indiana redshirt sophomore Nick South upset Purdue's number 19 ranked Garrett Ninehouse 3-2 and put the Hoosiers in striking distance of the Boilermakers.
I mean, it's a confidence booster that I needed, I know I can go perform against all these top guys. It's just about going and doing it, actually going out there, wrestling well, not letting the nerves get to me. And this was just a confidence booster letting me know that I can do that. And just looking to improve in the future, maybe even be even more of those top guys.
With a DJ Washington win at 184 and a Nick Willem loss at 197, the meet came down to the heavyweight bout. While the exciting overtime victory by Jacob Bullock granted the Hoosiers 3 more team points, the match left Indiana 1 point short of Purdue with a final score of 16-17.
Not the result we wanted, but our team showing improvement, and eventually those duels are going to start being us winning against these close duels, winning against all these teams, and that's our goal. Be one of the best teams, be ready for nationals. It's all just working up to there, and I think this just shows that we're making progress.
Despite the loss, head coach Angel Escobedo is hopeful for the team's future headed into the latter half of the season.
For us, it's to focus on improvement, get better than what we were today, and then also to have fun out there. I think our guys are starting to have fun, and they're starting to realize what that means. That means to put it all on the line, wrestle as hard as you can, and don't focus on the outcome. Just focus on what you can do and what you can control.
With a 3-meet home slate completed, Indiana will travel to Champaign, Illinois to face off against the Fighting Illini on Sunday. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Riley Woodall.
After 3 consecutive home dual meets, the Hoosiers will travel to Champaign, Illinois to compete against the Fighting Illini on Sunday. Follow along IUS TV Sports for live coverage for the meet, and be sure to catch on all the action on Big Ten Plus.
The IU women's golf team struggled in their Big Ten Match Play Championship this past weekend, losing all 3 rounds in Innisbrook, Florida. There were a few Hoosiers who were able to win individual matches throughout the tournament. Alexis Mistocqui was the lone Hoosier to win in round 1 as she finished up 2 with only 1 hole to play. While the second round was suspended due to darkness, both Valerie Clancy and Anya Donegan were leading through 15 holes. In the third round, there were 3 Hoosier winners, including Donegan, Clancy, and Margaret Fernandez. The Hoosiers' next tournament won't be until March 5th when they travel to Gainesville, Florida for the ViStar Invitational.
Now joining us on more for men's golf, IUS TV reporter Hank Joseph. Hank, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Kevin. I had the pleasure to talk to men's head golf coach Mike Mayer about the upcoming Big Ten Match Play Championship, expectations for sophomore Clay Merchant, and the team's goals for this season. Take a look.
Next weekend, you guys are going back down to Florida, going back to Hammock Beach. You're now the defending Big Ten Match Play champions. So, you had success there last year. What is the key to defending the title? Match play is obviously just a different version of golf than everybody playing for their own score.
Yeah, it's a different animal, and we are defending champions, which means we have a little target on our back. The Big Ten Network, unfortunately, weren't there last year because of COVID, but they're back this year, so it will be televised in a tape delay situation. So it'd be nice to win that thing again and have all our Hoosier fans be able to watch it. I think the key last year, and I think the key this year for us is going to be our depth. I think we can stack up with anybody in the country, not just in the Big Ten 1 through 5. And I think that's going to bode well for us in the match play championship. You mentioned Clay. He's our 5 guy. Man, if I was somebody else's 5 guy, I'd hate to be playing Clay Merchant head to head. So, and I think 1 to 5 are so interchangeable. We'll play Penn State. We have a first round bye because of our ranking. We'll play Penn State in the first round. I think we're going to match up really, really well against them. But at the same time, as we mentioned, Hank, and in this sport, anything can happen. So we haven't had much outside time yet. We haven't had a training trip to Florida. We're going to do a little bit of a training trip after this event. But I think we'll get down there, a little bit early, get ourselves acclimated, get on the grass. And, from what I've seen in our hitting bays, I don't think it's going to take us long.
Clay had a stellar freshman season. We talked about him. What are your expectations for him this season? And, what discussions have you guys had about him kind of playing up to the level that that he's ready for?
Well, we've had some length. Obviously, Clay had an outstanding summer, highlighted by his U.S. amateur performance, where he finished 23rd in the stroke play version against arguably 250 of the best players in the world. So, you can call it a sophomore slump, but it's golf. If you look on the PGA Tour or anywhere else, week to week, those guys don't win. One week they win, one week they miss the cut. So I think Clay got a little down on himself, got in his own way a little bit. I don't think it was too much of a technical issue, although we've made some technical changes in the off season with him. I think it's more of a confidence thing, a belief thing. And, Clay wanted and felt like he should win every tournament, but we know deep down in our sport that's not going to happen. And again, I think he, simply got in his own way a little bit. So we're trying to help him free himself up a little bit and free his swing up a little bit. And I really think this spring he's gonna go out there and play the way Clay is capable of playing.
So with all the firepower you guys have, and you just mentioned, 1 through 5, y'all can compete with anybody in the country. Would it be disappointing to not have, Indiana on the Big Ten trophy at the end of the year?
Well, again, that's just there's so many variables to consider. As far as the Big Ten Match Play Championship, anything could happen. Then we have the Big Ten Stroke Play Championship at French Lick later in the spring. So, you know what? We're going to go out all spring and compete as hard as we can compete. Leave it all on the golf course. Do everything we can. Control the controllables, which is ourselves. We can't do anything about our opponents out there, except we can show them by our actions, by our golf, by our attitude that we're a team that they're going to have to contend with.
Absolutely. Let the game speak for itself. Coach, thank you so much for coming on with me. I really enjoyed it, and, can't wait to follow the Big Ten Match Play Championship. We'll all be watching it on TV.
All right, great, Hank. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach. Bye.
The Big Ten Match Play Championship is coming up this Friday. The tournament will be on tape delay on the Big Ten Network this weekend, so make sure to check it out. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Hank. Coming up after the break, we crown this week's Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week.
And we recap track and field successful outing at the IU Relays and much more. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Nite.
Joining us for this week's Hoosier Highlight is IUS TV sports reporter Christian Oates. Christian?
Thanks, Kevin and Ethan. This week's IUS TV Sports Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week comes straight from the pool and is senior center and water polo captain Izzy Mandema. Mandema came out strong against Indiana's first opponent at last weekend's Michigan Invitational. She scored 4 goals in a 12-6 loss over number 3 ranked UCLA. Following that performance, she scored a hat trick in a 14-9 loss over LIU Brooklyn. Overall, she was the Hoosiers' leading scorer with 10 goals throughout 4 games in Ann Arbor. Izzy Mandema has been one of the key offensive players already for the Hoosiers this season. She has scored at least 1 goal in all 8 games played so far and leads the team with 24 goals. She is looking to match or surpass her record from last year when she recorded a team-best 62 goals. Keep an eye out for her in the pool this season as she will continue to be a key player for Indiana. Kevin, back to you.
Thanks, Christian. The 11th ranked Indiana water polo team is coming off a tough weekend playing at the Michigan Invitational. They went 1-3 during the tournament and now hold a record of 5-3. On Saturday, Indiana fought hard against their conference opponent UCLA, but second half struggles caused the Hoosiers to fall to the number 3 ranked Bruins 12-6. Later that day, the unranked LIU Brooklyn Sharks upset Indiana 14-9. Despite hat tricks from senior center Izzy Mandema and senior captain Tina Doherty, the Hoosiers couldn't rally. On Sunday, Indiana played number 5 Hawaii. Tina Doherty's 4th goals weren't enough to defeat the Rainbow Warriors. IU lost 15-8, but in their last matchup against 22 Marist, starting freshman Skylar Kidd scored 5 goals, which led the Hoosiers to a 16-8 victory. Indiana doesn't play again until February 19th and the 20th, where they will compete in Fresno, California for the Fresno State Invitational.
Over the weekend, the IU track and field team hosted the IU relays at Gladstein Fieldhouse. Our track and field reporter Gabe Fenster is on site with the recap. Gabe?
It was an action-packed weekend as the IU relays took place at the Gladstein Fieldhouse and the Indiana Hoosiers showed out on their home turf. For the men, it was Antonio Laidler coming out in first, followed by Kenny Benton and Rocoy Brathwaite filling out the 2nd and 3rd spot in the 60-meter. Benton had himself a day, as he also took first place in the 400-meter. In the distance medley relay, the Hoosiers took first place, marking the best record in the NCAA. For the pole vaulters, it was Nathan Stone and Ryan Leip taking the top 2 spots, and it was Sean Mockler who took first place in the weight throw. Moving on to the women, it was Morgan Snow at the number 1 spot in the 200-meter, and in the 400-meter, it was Kaylee Lane taking first. Bailey Hertenstein took the top spot in the mile run, earning herself a new personal record, and the Hoosiers took first in the 4x400-meter relay. To conclude the weekend, Mahogany Jenkins took first place in both the high jump and the triple jump, and Maddie Pollard took the top spot in the women's shot put. The men and women's track and field team take a road trip to South Bend, Indiana for the Mayo Invitational this Friday and Saturday. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Gabe Fenster.
Follow along with the rest of the IU track and field season with IUS TV Sports on Twitter and Instagram.
The IU women's tennis team faced off against Utah at their home this past Sunday in the regular season opener. Down 2 players, the Hoosiers faced a 2-0 deficit after the doubles round where the doubles pair of Stayescu and Mishek lost 6-3. Things wouldn't get better for the Hoosiers in the singles with Stayescu putting the Hoosiers on the board, first with a straight set win against Utah's Emily Dush. Florida State transfer Laura Schneider had an impressive victory in the number 1 singles, winning 7-6, 6-4 against Linda DeYoung. Those 2 outings would not be enough as IU would lose by a score of 2-5 against Utah. Head coach Ramiro Azuki says this was a great match for them going forward.
Just really proud of the way they competed today. To be short of players and due to COVID, and to be able for them to come out and compete the way they did, just really proud. I think we, when you go down like that, 2-0 before you kind of start playing the singles, it's a little bit, uphill. But I think that we overcame, and just really proud how they competed today.
The Hoosiers will now aim to notch their first win at home against Yale on Sunday.
The Indiana men's tennis team had both matches against Auburn and Vanderbilt postponed this past weekend. The match against Auburn has been rescheduled for March 7th, and both teams are working to reschedule the Vanderbilt match. This Saturday, Indiana will take on Yale at 2 p.m., and on Sunday, they will play Princeton at 11 a.m. Be sure to follow our beat reporters Kara Adams and Blake Spillers for more updates.
Indiana men's ice hockey fought to continue their winning streak with the 6-0 victory against the University of Dayton Flyers on Saturday, January 29th. While it was meant to be a 2-game series, the January 28th matchup was canceled due to inclement weather conditions. The Cream and Crimson made their one-game weekend worth it, though, as dominating shots on goal 35-21 and face-offs 31-17. Indiana racked up 9 penalties total, one short of Dayton's 10, in what was a very physical game. 6 different Hoosiers put up goals, while goaltender Sammy Billis earned his first shutout of the season to ensure a complete team effort. Indiana will now look to face off Bowling Green State in a split series this upcoming weekend. Tomorrow's puck drop will be at 10 p.m. at Perry Park Ice Rink in Indianapolis, and Saturday's matchup will be a kickoff at 8 p.m. at the Slater Family Ice Arena in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Joining us now with the Candy Stripe calendar report is IUS TV sports reporter Brett Smith. Brett, over to you.
Thanks, Kevin and Ethan. And now let's take a look at what the Hoosier schedule looks like for this weekend. On Friday and Saturday, the men's golf team will compete in the Big Ten Match Play Championship. The Hoosiers are coming off an 8th place finish at the Williams Cup and look to improve their performance this weekend. The men's and women's track teams travel up to South Bend to compete in the Mayo Invitational and will compete through Saturday. The women's tennis team will look to earn their first win of the season versus Yale at home starting at 5 p.m. On Saturday, we have a huge game for the men's basketball team as the Hoosiers take on the 18th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini at Assembly Hall at noon on ESPN. Soon after, the men's tennis team will face off against Yale at 2 p.m. and have a quick turnaround Sunday with a matchup against Princeton to finish off their busy weekend. The wrestling team looks to gain some momentum in the Big Ten as the team travels to face Illinois in another Big Ten matchup at 1. At the same time, women's basketball team looks to sweep the Boilermakers in the Barn Burner rivalry game on BTN+. And finally, women's tennis will have another home match against Marquette at 2:30 p.m. That's what's coming up in IU Sports. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Brett, and that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUS TV Sports for all your IU sports news and updates. For our production crew behind me, I'm Ethan Mazel.
And I'm Kevin Vera. We'll see you next week.